Hi folks, this is Steve from the Pistol Place with another replica review, and this time it's the WE P38, a replica of the iconic Walther P38. This is an almost all metal replica other than grips and some internal parts. It has good weight, it's over 700 grams. It's not a great deal less than the original, but it feels reasonably convincing, maybe a little bit light. It has rather a nice glossy black finish, as you can see. I haven't owned this particularly long, so I don't know how durable it'll be, but it certainly looks different to most replicas of more modern pistols, and I quite like the way it looks. In terms of size, proportions, yeah, it's pretty much spot on for a P38. There are two things I'm not quite so sure about, and those are the grips. You can see that they're black. They are correctly modelled in plastic. They're the right shape, the right size, but most grips on the P38 were varying shades of brown. They were made out of a very early plastic called Bakelite. I would like to have seen this with brown rather than black grips. I suppose that's a fairly minor thing. The other issue is this is an unlicensed replica, so it doesn't have any Walther markings. In fact, the only markings on it, hopefully you can see, on the right side of the slide you have this white text with the F mark and the caliber. On the left side of the slide you have ASG 1988 engraved. Unfortunately it is engraved quite straight, but it's not a disaster. I mean, it would be nice to see it with brown grips and full markings, but what you get really isn't bad. Okay, let's talk about functionality on this replica. It's really very good indeed. Virtually everything here works in the same way as on the original. The magazine is full metal and has a heel magazine release, which is correct. We have the takedown lever, the slide release, and a manual safety and decocker on the right hand side. The slide itself has a full range of travel, locks back on empty, slide release, and as you'd guess, releases the slide. I particularly like the way that WE have modelled the manual safety decocker. If that's in the fire position, which is what it's in at the moment, then when you rack the slide and release it, the hammer's cocked for a single action shot. If you pull the trigger, the slide locks back on empty, which is fine, just what you'd expect. However, the P38 was one of the first pistols to include a decocker, and that's correctly modelled here, so that if you move, when it'll only work when the hammer's cocked, if you move the manual safety to the safe position, it drops the hammer not quite all the way and resets the trigger, and obviously it won't work then. If you then put it back to the fire position, it resets both the trigger and the hammer, and it resets the trigger for a double action first shot. That's exactly how the original works, and it's nice to see it replicated so accurately here. The magazine, as I say, has a heel release. The magazine itself is all metal, but it's very narrow. It's less than ½ an inch thick, and that means that it's a single stack magazine, holds up to 14 BBs. The follower doesn't lock down, so you have to hold it down or you put individual BBs into the feedlet on the front of the magazine. Once it's gassed up, and it holds gas for around 50 shots despite its small size, it locks in nicely. I've also got to say that this feels like a nicely made replica. The slide fits absolutely perfectly. There's no movement, nothing rattles or moves if you shake it. It really feels well put together. I think in terms of functionality, this is just about as good as it gets for airsoft replicas. Okay, let's take a look at disassembly of this replica. If you do want to disassemble it for maintenance, lubrication or whatever, it is simple and it's done in the same way as field stripping the original. First thing, as usual, remove the magazine. Once you've done that, push the slide and barrel assembly back around 1/4 of an inch and then move the takedown lever to the 8 o'clock position, roughly. So it's like that. Then you can slide the slide and barrel assembly off the frame. If you want to take the barrel out of the slide, then you have to pull down on this part, the locking block, gently, and then the barrel will slide out of the front of the slide. You can also see that just above the barrel you have a hex screw there, very small. That's used to adjust the hop up, and a hex key is provided here. One thing worth noting is that this doesn't have a single return spring. Like the original, it has 2 smaller springs, one on either side of the frame. These are captive springs and pins, so they're not going to spring out or fall out when you do disassemble. Reassembly is very simple and simply the opposite. To slide the barrel back into the slide, again, get it in position and then pull down on the locking block and the barrel will move back into the slide. Put the slide back onto the frame and move the takedown lever back to its original position. And that's it, reassembled, ready to go. Simple, straightforward, and exactly as it was on the original. So there you are, the We P38. Overall, I think it's a pretty decent replica. It certainly replicates the P38 very well. Shooting, well, the power is a little less than the 300 FPS claimed by WE. I'm not sure that that really matters. There's certainly enough power for satisfactory target shooting, which is certainly what I use it for. I think whether you're a collector of replicas of historic guns, or you want to use this for target shooting or for airsoft, I don't think you'd be too disappointed. Overall, this one is recommended. There's a link in the description to a full review on the pistol place. Thanks for watching.